just start at the beginning and let us know,
Yeah. Well,
how you got here.
so I have always been I've been a lifelong science and medicine nerd. That's kind of always been my thing. Even as a really young kid, I always showed a very a pronounced interest in the human body, in diseases, how all of that works, how the genome influences those aspects of human life. And I remember when I was a kid, like my most favorite book that we had were actually my grandfather's old medical books. My grandfather was a physician and surgeon in the 1930s, and then he 30s through the 70s. He died in the 70s. But we had all of his old medical books, and I used to just like sit for hours and just like flip through them and look at all the anatomy and like read the articles about human development and just medicine in general. And I just thought it was really interesting. And so I kind of grew up in, like everybody else, who shows an interest in it. It's like, oh well, you'll be a doctor, you'll be a physician. And so
Right.
I kind of always just assumed that that was what would happen. And so I got to UCI, and my counselor's telling me, like, if you want to go to medical school, you need to get into an undergraduate research lab, and you need to find a faculty mentor who will be able to get you your letters of rec and do all that stuff. And so the first quarter of my freshman year, I took evolutionary biology and ecology was mandatory for all bio majors. And so, but my professor, Michael Rose, I just thought was a very, very interesting person. And the way that he taught ecology and evolution was unique. Like he taught it. I guess it was something that I hadn't really thought of, like the intricacies of evolution. Like I knew like the basics, like, oh, the best genes come together and that's the next generation. That's like the basic things of evolution. But then I learned more about him and what he studied, and he studied the evolutionary biology basis of aging and the aging process, and how life extension happens, and how those genes are involved in subsequent generations living longer and longer and longer. And he's just a cool guy too. Like if you ever get a chance to meet Michael Rose, like he's very interesting. He's Canadian. He's kind of straight faced, but has like sort of a biting sense of humor. And he loves his rock music. His music is like the second most important thing in his life. And he's very, very interesting. And so I immediately booked time with him during his office hours and went and talked to him more. And I was like, I'd really like to learn more about your lab and possibly join your lab if you have space for me. And he was like, oh yeah, absolutely. And so that's when I learned about the fruit flies and how they were used for studying aging. And immediately in my brain, I saw all of these other implications that people think on the surface. It's like, oh, you're studying the aging process, but there's so much involved in the aging process. If you think about how organisms age, the way that their cells stop dividing properly, the way that they stop clearing out cellular garbage properly, the way that you basically accumulate damage and you lose the ability to kind of adapt to your surroundings and to kind of be responsive to selective pressure. That's sort of the aging process in a nutshell, and how that causes diseases that people get as they age. And so I just kind of had this like mental explosion of all the implications that studying the aging process has. And it's like not just about this
Aging.
It's not about this vain notion about living forever. It's about
Not just about.
Right, not just about. It's about this, like, about living better, about being healthier,
Right.
and to me, I was like, well, yeah, this is great, because if you studying aging, you can solve all these other diseases too that,
That stop people from having even a normal lifespan.
right,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of this like aha moment for me.